Welcome to another explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today because we are exploring something truly profound. We're looking at a magnificent text, the Quran, as a path of light, and we're asking the ultimate question: how do we actually understand it? See, there's this fascinating dilemma that always surrounds it. Who really has the right to comprehend its deepest meanings? Is it this exclusive, locked-down club for elite scholars, or is it an open book for the everyday person? Today, we're going to unpack the incredible, dynamic relationship between scholarly expertise, having a pure heart, and divine guidance. Okay, let's dive into this. It's the fundamental question that sits right at the center of how we interact with any sacred text. Who has the right to understand the Quran? There is a lot of debate around this. Do you need a lifetime of intense academic study, or can a complete newcomer, someone just opening it for the first time, grasp its depths? Well, the answer is both beautifully simple and deeply nuanced. To really get it, we need to map out exactly where human effort meets divine revelation.
So here is our spiritual roadmap for today. First, we'll look at who actually understands it. Second, the absolute prerequisite of a pure heart. Third, the connection between scholars and converts. Fourth, the divine promise. And finally, ultimate guidance from Allah.
Section 1. Who understands it? Let's take a look at recognizing the true experts. Whenever we talk about a text as complex and historically rich as the Quran, we absolutely have to establish a baseline of traditional scholarly knowledge. And this brings us to chapter 35, Surah Fatir, verse 28. This is our anchor. The verse states, "Among his servants, only scholars fear Allah." Now, let's completely unpack that because it's crucial. It means that true comprehension of the text reveals the sheer magnitude of the Creator. It is not just about memorizing facts or academic retention. True knowledge inherently generates this deep, reverential awe and humility. The more they know, the more they realize how vast the divine is. Their knowledge doesn't make them proud, it literally humbles them. Now, what's really interesting here is this crucial distinction. Yes, absolutely everyone has the right to read and learn from the Quran. But having the right to read doesn't instantly make someone an expert teacher. Make sense? The scholars, the ulama, are essential because they provide that deeply researched, vital guidance. However, even the greatest scholars on earth will be the first to tell you that no one will ever match the ultimate perfect expertise of the Prophet Muhammad himself. The scholars are essentially our guides, pointing us constantly back to that original, perfect understanding. Moving right along to section 2, a pure heart. This is the absolute prerequisite. So we've established the role of academic expertise, right? But here is where the paradigm completely shifts. Academic brilliance is entirely useless without a heart that is free from arrogance. And this brings us to a powerfully sobering verse, chapter 7, Surah Al-Araf, verse 146. It explicitly states that those who carry arrogance in their hearts will be turned away from the signs of truth. Think about the mechanics of this specific verse for a second. It describes an active turning away by the divine. It shows us that spiritual pride literally blinds intellectual capacity. Even if every single piece of evidence is presented perfectly, an arrogant heart simply will not and cannot believe. This arrogance isn't just a minor character flaw. It acts as a literal impenetrable wall to the truth. If a person approaches the text already believing they know everything or feeling somehow superior, they lock themselves out of understanding entirely. And you know what? This levels the playing field for all of us. It means the primary requirement for unlocking the Quran isn't having a PhD in linguistics, it's having a pure, humble condition of the heart. Section 3, Scholars and Converts. Let's see how two very distinct paths converge. So if humility is the real key, how does that actually play out in the real world? Well, think about new converts. Are they master exegetes? No. Do they speak fluent ancient Arabic? Usually no way. Yet look at this incredible contrast. On one side, we have the scholars holding the fortress of tradition. They have mastery of Arabic and a deep, specific understanding of exactly why and when a verse was revealed. On the other side, we have the converts, who very often approach the text through the lens of modern empirical sciences, like mathematics, physics, or biology. They come in with this fresh, outside-the-box perspective. They might spot profound scientific connections that a traditional scholar might overlook, while the scholar understands the foundational context that the convert lacks. It's not a competition. It's an incredible synergy where they mutually inspire and strengthen the whole community's understanding. But of course, when tricky questions arise, who holds the anchor? The text points us directly to chapter 16, Surah An-Nahl, verse 43. The directive here is crystal clear. So ask the people of the message if you do not know. This verse completely cements a chain of integrity. It ensures that while fresh, scientific perspectives are totally welcome and celebrated, they don't drift off into misinterpretation because they are firmly anchored by traditional mastery. The scholars hold that primary, indispensable position as the guardians of the text. It is a really beautiful system of scholars serving the community. They are always ready to step in and bridge that knowledge gap. So if you're ever sitting there feeling intimidated because you don't know the language perfectly or the history inside out, take a breath. Rest assured you don't have to navigate it alone. The scholars are there to guide you safely through those deep waters. Section 4. The guarantee for sincere effort. Now we reach a part that I find incredibly empowering. What if you aren't a scholar, and you aren't a scientist, but you just really genuinely want to understand? This is where we look at chapter 29, Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 69. And those who strive for us, we will surely guide them to our ways. Notice the condition laid out here, to strive. It absolutely does not demand immediate perfection. Instead, it asks for a genuine, heartfelt struggle to seek his pleasure. For that effort alone, the pathways are opened. It is a direct, unbreakable promise from the divine to the seeker. So, the crucial point is how this forms a beautifully simple, step-by-step journey for literally anyone watching this right now. Step 1. You strive. You put in the honest effort to learn, purely for his pleasure. Step 2. You completely strip away any arrogance or ego. Step 3. The promise kicks in and the paths of guidance are opened for you. It's an active, participatory process. You take a step and the path opens. Section 5. The ultimate realization. Guidance belongs solely to Allah. We've talked about the scholars, the scientists, and our own personal striving, but we have to realize that ultimately the actual spark of true understanding is completely out of human hands. Let's unpack this magnificent verse from chapter 41, Surah Fussilat, verse 53. It declares that signs of the truth will be shown in the horizons and within themselves. What does that mean? It means objective external reality, like the cosmos, the universe, and subjective internal reality, like human biology and consciousness, are both perfect, undeniable signs. We humans can study these signs all day long, but making the heart truly see and accept them? That's a totally different matter. Because at the end of the day, Allah alone perfects that guidance. A scholar can explain the Arabic grammar flawlessly. A convert can point out a mind-blowing mathematical pattern in the text. But neither of those things on their own can force enlightenment into a human heart. The actual completion of that journey, the moment the light bulb truly goes on in the soul, is a purely divine act. To really drive this home, let's look at chapter 28, Surah Al-Qasas, verse 56. This verse actually addresses the Prophet Muhammad directly. It says that even he cannot guide someone just because he loves them. Only Allah guides. The deepest takeaway here is about surrendering control. I mean, think about it. If the greatest teacher to ever live could not independently force guidance into the heart of someone he desperately loved, we have to accept that our own human limitations are completely natural and expected. And this brilliantly illustrates the core concept of divine guidance. It isn't just data you can memorize from a textbook. It is the ultimate prerogative and gift bestowed graciously upon a sincere heart. It's like farming. You can prepare the soil by studying hard and removing arrogance, but only the divine can actually make the seed grow. So let's bring all of this together. The prophets and the scholars are there to start the journey and open the path for us. Because of that incredible support system, you should never, ever despair over your own limitations or lack of formal training. You can always learn from the incredible works of scholars. But always remember, behind any imperfection in our knowledge, it is the absolute sincerity of our struggle that will be answered by the divine. Which leaves us with this final, vital question to ask ourselves today. We've seen that understanding this path of light doesn't require us to be perfect academics right out of the gate, but it does require something much, much deeper. Despite all our human limitations, our lack of perfect vocabulary, or our everyday struggles, have we brought a sincere, humble heart to our learning today? If we do, the absolute promise is that the path of light will open for us. Thank you so much for exploring this incredible topic with me on The Explainer today. Keep learning, keep striving, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something really fascinating, a true exploration of the Al-Quran. Now, I know there's a ton of controversy and honestly a lot of hesitation around how to even approach it, but we aren't going to treat this like some incredibly daunting, impenetrable academic chore. No way! Instead, we're going to look at what the source material actually says, which frames it as a highly accessible, bright path. So let's map this journey out step by step together, shall we?
Right off the bat, let's completely tackle that intimidation factor by asking the big, burning question. Who really has the right to understand the Al-Quran? I mean, is this text strictly locked away for lifelong experts? Do you seriously need decades of intense study just to open the book and actually get something out of it? Well, let's explore whether the everyday seeker, someone just starting out, has a rightful place on this path.
To answer that, we absolutely have to acknowledge the experts first. The text clearly highlights in Chapter Fatir that scholars, the ulama, possess this incredibly profound, deep-seated knowledge and a very unique reverence for God. But here's the thing, acknowledging an expert's high level doesn't disqualify the rest of us. It doesn't mean beginners are locked out of the text, not at all.
Because as it turns out, the true prerequisite for understanding isn't some prestigious academic title. According to Chapter Al-Araf, it's actually just a heart completely free from arrogance. The text literally states that arrogance turns people away from understanding the signs, regardless of how smart they might be. If you approach it with an honest, humble intention, you are granted the right to understand it. So keep this idea of a humble heart in your back pocket, because it becomes the ultimate key a bit later on.
Okay, moving into part 1, Synergy, the Scholar and the Seeker.
The dynamic here is just brilliant. Think about a new learner, a mu'alaf. They might not know a single word of Arabic, but they bring fresh, external expertise to the table. Maybe they're a physicist or a mathematician, and they're seeing patterns through a completely different lens. On the flip side, the scholar brings rigorous historical context, like the exact reasons certain verses were revealed, and deep linguistic mastery. So they're bringing two entirely different sets of tools to the exact same text.
And the facts of this synergy are pretty clear-cut. New seekers are obviously not tafsir or commentary experts, but they can still discover profound truths through their unique perspectives. Meanwhile, scholars see the intricate nuances the seeker might totally miss. They don't compete, they complete each other. They inspire and elevate one another in the shared pursuit of understanding. It's a real win-win.
However, we still need a balance here. Chapter An-Nahl gives a really clear directive. When you don't know, ask those who do. The scholars remain incredibly essential, reliable guides on this journey. Even if a seeker is finding meaning independently, the scholar is always there, serving the community and making sure the interpretation stays on track.
All right, part 2, the compass, starting with simplicity.
So when a new seeker actually sits down to begin, they don't start with the most complex, unseen theological concepts. That would be overwhelming. Instead, they start with what's observable. We call these muqamat, simple, clear verses. Seekers anchor themselves in the clear, logical cause and effect relationships they already know from their own fields of expertise, like biology or math, and use these super accessible truths to begin engaging with the text. The complex stuff, the mutashabihat, comes later.
And this observable reality literally becomes the foundation of their understanding. Chapter Ali Imran points this out directly. By grasping universal truths found in their own fields first, the new learner builds the mental framework they're going to need to eventually approach the more complex, unspecific elements of faith without completely losing their way.
It's an incredibly logical progression. Think of it like a stepping stone path. You start simple. You use your intellect to observe clear boundaries in the physical world. This illuminates foundational universal truths. And finally, having built that rock-solid logical foundation, your mind is actually prepared to reason with the complex, absolute nature of the text. It slowly and safely builds up your intellectual confidence.
But, and this is crucial, you absolutely cannot rush this process. The text itself asks the reader to accept their limitations and take the learning process gradually. Actually, it's more like an ongoing struggle. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? It requires the humility to just accept what you don't yet know, which paves the way for true, gradual understanding.
Which brings us to part 3, the ultimate guide.
Now, what happens when human intellect and earthly teachers eventually hit their limits? Because they will. Well, Chapter Al-Ankabut provides the answer. Remember earlier when we talked about leaving arrogance behind? This is exactly where it pays off. The text promises that this very sincerity, a genuine struggle completely devoid of arrogance, is what guarantees divine guidance. When your human effort reaches its absolute edge, God steps in and completes the journey for the seeker.
And where does this divine guidance actually manifest? Chapter Fusilat tells us the signs are shown in the horizons and within themselves. This connects perfectly back to the new learner's unique background. If you're a physicist, your horizons are the physical laws of the universe. The signs appear in the very language you already understand until the truth becomes absolutely undeniably clear.
But we have to realize that even the greatest human teacher, the Prophet Muhammad himself, cannot just force understanding onto someone. Chapter Al-Qasas notes that he can't guide just anyone he likes. Scholars can open the door, sure, and your intellect walks you right up to it. But that ultimate illumination, that is a gift granted by the divine. It lies entirely beyond human effort.
And finally, Part 4, An Honest Journey.
I want to leave you with this final, incredibly powerful realization derived directly from the source material. The Quran is not designed to be mastered. It is designed to be journeyed honestly. It's a lifelong path, not just some textbook to conquer and feed the human ego. Regardless of your background, your expertise, or your limitations, your sincere, humble struggle will be answered. So the only real question left for you is, are you ready to begin your honest journey? Keep learning, and we'll see you in the next explainer.